In this video, we're going to be solving equations, and a reminder that nearly every equation can be solved with 4 very simple steps. Step number 1, we always remove parentheses by distributing. Step number 2, we're going to combine any like terms that are on the same side. Step number 3, and it says move variables to one side, but I'm going to move all my variables to one side and move anything that doesn't have a variable to the other side, all in the same step, and then we got a very simple one-step equation left to solve. So step number 1, let's try it on these equations over here. Step number 1, we're going to distribute. So we're going to multiply each of these terms by 6. And I now have 6n, and 6 times a positive 5 is a positive 30. Bring down the equals and bring down the 2. Next up, we're going to leave all of our n's on one side, and anything that doesn't have an n, we're going to move to the other side. So therefore, this plus 30, I'm going to move it to the other side by doing the opposite, by subtracting 30. So I'm left with my 6n on one side. I bring down my equal sign, which is in the middle now, and 2 minus 30 is a negative 28. And again, that leaves you a very simple equation, one-step equation to solve in the last step. To get rid of this 6, since we have multiplication, we're going to go to the other side and we're going to divide by 6. When you divide by 6, if this is something that you can divide, if you can do 28 divided by 6, then divide it. If not, we're going to treat it like a fraction and we're going to reduce it. You can treat it like a division and actually divide it and give a decimal. But what I would like for us to keep our answers as fractions if at all possible. A negative divided by positive is a negative. 28 divided by 6 will reduce. We'll divide top and bottom by 2, and that leaves me with a 14 on the top, on a 3 on the bottom. So n is equal to negative 14 thirds. Okay, number 2. A little bit different. We're going to start this out with this first step. The whole bottom. Notice the whole side is being divided by negative 4. So what I'm going to do in the very first step to clean this up a little bit, since I have division by negative 4, I'm going to go ahead and mark that out and move it to the other side by multiplying by negative 4. So now I have 3 parentheses, 5 minus 3x equals negative times negative is a positive, and then 15 times 4 is 60. Now, I know we said we're now going to distribute, and you can, and that's what I'm going to do. However, if you would like to, same as in the first step, the whole side was being divided by 4, so I multiplied over here by 4. Well, now this whole side is being multiplied by 3. If you would like to, you could actually come to this other side, and you could divide by that 3 to get rid of it and mark it out. Or you can choose what most people do, and you can distribute. 3 times 5 is 15. Positive 3 times a negative 3 is a negative 9x equals 60. And it's just like the other problem. Combine all your like terms on the same side. I'm leaving my x's over here, so I'm going to move my 15 by subtracting 15. The reason I subtracted is because this is a positive 15. I'm now left with negative 9x equals 60 minus 15 is 45. Last step, since these are being multiplied, I will now divide by negative 9, and I get x is negative 5. Number 3. Step number 1, I'm going to distribute. 2 times 2 is 4, and positive 2 times a negative 7 is a negative 14y. Bring down the minus 5, bring down equals 111. Now, this is the first time that this second step has come into play. We distributed, now let's simplify each side. If there's any like terms on the same side, like here the positive 4 and the negative 5 are on the same side, let's put them together. Let's leave our negative 14y. And a positive 4 and a negative 5 is a negative 1. Now, I did not move anything across the equal sign there. I simply put those two terms together. Now we solve it like we did before. Let's leave all of our y's over here, and we can move our minus 1 to the other side by adding 1. That gives me negative 14y on the left side. That gives me 112 on the right side. The last step, since these are being multiplied, we will divide by negative 14, and we'll get y equals positive divided by negative is a negative. 14 into 112 will go 8 times. So y is negative 8. Number 4. Step number 1, distribute. So leave the negative 16. I'm going to do negative 15 sixteenths times 4 fifths, and then negative 15 sixteenths times 32 thirds. A negative times a positive is a negative, so let's go ahead and take care of the sign first. Now I've got to do 15 sixteenths times 4 fifths. Cross cancel, 4 divides into both of these once and 4 times. 5 divides into both of these once and 3 times. Multiply tops and bottoms, and I get 3/4. So 3/4 Q. A negative times a positive is a negative, so go ahead and put your minus. And now let's multiply 15 sixteenths times 32 thirds. 3 goes into both of these 5 times and 1 time. 16 goes into both of these once and twice. Multiply the tops and bottoms, and I get 10 over 1, or just 10. We now put all of our variables on one side. These are all of our variables. And now we've got to move my minus 10 to the other side by adding 10. So we're going to put our variables on the right, numbers on the left. It doesn't matter which one you put on what side. But since the Q's were all on the right already, I left them over there. Negative 16 and 10 is negative 6 equals negative 3/4 Q. Now the last step. To get rid of that negative 3/4, since it's being multiplied, we're going to divide by negative 3/4. A reminder that when you divide by a fraction, dividing by A over B, to divide by a fraction, you flip and you change it to multiplication. So we can actually combine those two steps into one. We've got to divide by negative 3/4, so why not go to the other side and multiply by negative 4/3? Go ahead and multiply by the reciprocal, and that'll save you a step. So now we have Q is equal to, I'm going to go ahead and put it first, a negative times a negative is a positive, 4/3 times 6, put it over 1, cross cancel once, twice, gives me 8 over 1, or just 8. Number 5. On this one, I have A's on both sides. Let's get all of our A's on one side. Let's get all of our numbers on the other side. There's no distributive here, so let's move minus 6A over here by adding 6A. It does not matter which side you put the A's on, as long as the numbers you move to the other side. Minus 7 to get rid of, I'm going to do plus 7. I now have 16A. Bring down your equal sign. 21 and 7 is 28. You have only one step left. Since these are being multiplied, let's divide by 16. And you have A is equal to. 16 will not go into 28 evenly. It'll have a remainder. So therefore, instead of dividing it then, let's just choose to reduce it. 4 will go into both. 4 will go into 28 7 times. 4 will go into 16 4 times. So A is equal to 7/4 is one way you could leave it. If you actually divided it, you would have got 1 3/4 or 1.75. Either one of those answers would be fine. Number 6, step number 1, let's distribute. 5/6W plus 21. Negative 1/3 times 2 and negative 1/3 times 9. We can do these in our head. A negative times a positive is a negative. Multiply tops, multiply bottoms, nothing cross cancels there, and it leaves you with 2/3. So negative 2/3 W. A negative times a negative is a positive. We've got to do 1/3 times 9. If you need to come over to the side and do it, that is perfectly fine. Cross cancel leaves you with a 3 and a 1. That's 3 over 1, which is just 3. We're going to put all of our W's on one side. We're going to put anything non-W on the other side. So minus 2/3 W, I'll move over here by doing plus 2/3 W. If I move my W's to the left, let's move our 21 to the right by doing the opposite. Your equal sign is still right here in the middle. So you got to do 5/6 plus 2/3. To add two fractions, you have to have common denominators. 5/6 plus 2/3. Okay, to get, we can turn that bottom into a 6 by multiplying top and bottom by 2. 2 over 3 turns into 4 over 6. So therefore, 5/6 plus 4/6 would be 9 over 6. Positive 23 minus, or positive 3 minus 21 is a negative 18. Last step. Now remember what I said. We've got to divide by, and I should have reduced that. Let's reduce that 9/6 to 3/2. Divide by top and bottom by 3. We've got to divide by 3/2. Well, to divide by 3/2, we've got to flip and multiply. So just go to the other side and multiply by the reciprocal, 2/3, and that's going to get rid of it. That gives me W equals, you can cross cancel right here. Negative times a positive is a negative. 18 cross cancels with 3, leaves you with a 1 and a 6. Multiply tops, you get 12. Multiply the bottoms, you get 1. 12 over 1 is 12. Number 7, distribute first. Negative 5 times 8p is a negative 40p. A negative times a positive is a negative. 5 times 6 is 30. You have 5 minus 5p on the right side. Move all your p's to the same side. Move anything that doesn't have a p to the other side. It doesn't matter which side you move it to. Like, watch this. I'll do it opposite what we've been doing. Minus 40, you could actually move over to the right side by doing plus 40. But if you're going to move the p's to the right, move the 5 to the left away from those p's. So now on the left side, you have negative 35. Bring down the equal sign. Negative 5 and a positive 40 is a negative, no, actually it's a positive 35p. Last step to get rid of this 35, since it's being multiplied, let's divide. And you get p equals negative 35 divided by 35 is a negative 1. Number 8, distribute this negative 1 to get rid of parentheses, and it gives you 16. Negative 1 times 7m is negative 7m. A negative times a positive is a negative 3. Distribute the 8 on the other side. 8 times 1 is 8. A positive times a negative is a negative. 8 times m is 8m. Combine any like terms on the same side. You have a 16 and a 3 on this side. I like to put the m's first. 16 minus 3 is a positive 13. And you can leave it like it is on the right side, or you could even flip-flop if you want the m's written first. For some reason, it doesn't matter. I'm going to move all my m's to the same side, so minus 8m turns into plus 8m. If I'm putting my m's on the left, let's put our 13 on the right. I have negative 7 plus 8m gives me 1m. Now, let me point out something here. Do not put the 1 because you're going to create an extra step for you. If it's 1m, just put m because that's what we're trying to get by itself anyway. So the m's done. We have nothing else to move over. So when I do positive 8 minus 13, I get a negative 5, and I am finished with that one. Now, a reminder on any of these problems, you could go back to the original. Let's show you on this. Go back to the original, and since m is negative 5, everywhere you have an m, you could put a negative 5. And if you were to do that, whatever you would have given on this left side after you evaluate that expression, which, let's see, negative 35 plus 3, that's negative 32. 16 plus 32, I believe that would be 48 is what you get when you plug in m there. When you plug in m over here, 1 minus negative 5, that's 1 plus 5 is 6. 8 times 6 is 48. When you plug in negative 5 on the left side and the right side, you get the same value. Therefore, you know that you're right, because that's what you're trying to do is make them equal. Okay, number 9. Step number 1, since the whole side is being divided by 2, let's go ahead and take care of that first. Okay, the way you're going to take care of division by 2 is to go to the other side and multiply by 2. Now, here's the key to this. You can't, when I say multiply the side by 2, if you get rid of division by multiplying, you have to multiply everything on that side, not just part of it. Both terms must be multiplied by 2. So now on top of this, let's write down what we have left. It's 10x plus 17. And as I write this down, let's go ahead and remove parentheses. This negative 1 on the outside of the parentheses must be distributed. Negative 1 times the x, and a negative 1 times a negative 9 would be a positive 9. Bring down the equals. Now, if you would like to, we can go ahead and distribute the other side. Again, we move this 2 over by multiplying. Multiply both of these terms by 2 by distributing. Leaves you a 6x and a positive 2. Now, step number 2 in our list is we always combine like terms that are on the same side. I'm not moving anything. So the 10x and the negative 1x, I'm just putting together. 10x minus 1x is 9x. A positive 17 and a positive 9 is a positive 26. Nothing got moved from one side to the other side, so I changed absolutely no signs. Now we're going to start moving. To move a 6x, I've got to do minus 6x. The reason why is because it was a positive 6x. To move a positive 26 to the right side, I'm going to do minus 26. 9x minus 6x gives you 3x. The equal sign is still in the middle. 2 minus 26 is a negative 24. Last step, since this is multiplication, mark it out and divide, and you would get x equals negative 8. Number 10. Looks pretty bad, but not going to be horrible. We're multiplying 9/8. We're distributing 9/8 times 4. If you need to come over to the side and do 9/8 times 4, it will cross cancel. Mark out 4 and 8, reduce it, gives you 1 and a 2. So you're left with 9 on top and 2 on bottom, so that'd be 9/2. Positive times a negative is a negative. You've got to do 9 over 8 times 1 over 2. Now, nothing's going to cross cancel there anyway, so just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms, and you get 9/16. The other side, we're distributing the 3. Same way here. Nothing's going to cross cancel with 3 and 4 and 1 and 1, so multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms gives you 3/4. Nothing's going to cross cancel between 3 and 2 and 1 and 5 on this fraction and this fraction, so multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. We want all of our A's on the same side. It does not matter which you move. But again, I like if I have a negative 9/16, I would rather move it over here by doing positive 9/16. That way you're not dealing with any negatives. However, if you want your A's, and that's an A there, if you want your A's on the right side, let's move this positive 15/12 to the left side by doing 15 halves to the left side by doing minus 15 halves. The equal sign is still right here in the middle. 9 minus 15 is negative 6 halves. And we can reduce that in just a second. 3/4 and 9/16. 3/4 plus 9/16. To add two fractions, the bottoms have to be the same. So let's change this to a 16 by multiplying top and bottom by 4. That'd be 12 over 16 plus 9 over 16. And that would be 21 over 16. And there's the A. Just combine the like terms. Now, before I do this last step, I do want to reduce this. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. 21 over 16 looks like it should reduce, but I don't think it will. So therefore, we have equals 21/16 A. Now, to get rid of 21/16, since it's being multiplied, we're going to divide, which is the same thing by multiplying by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply the other side by 16 over 21. And that will give us A is equal to a positive times a negative is a negative. Let's do some cross canceling. Let me change color so we can see it better. 21 and 3 cross cancels. Divide both by 3 gives you a 1 and a 7. Nothing else will, so multiply top by top gives you 16. Multiply the 7 by the 1 gives you 7. You can divide that, but it's going to give you a decimal, so we'll just leave it like that. Number 11. Step number 1, parentheses. Let's remove them. 1 plus 3c equals 5 times 1. And a positive 5 times a negative would be a negative 5c. Bring down your 8c. We're going to combine all like terms on the same side. 1 plus 3c are not like terms. However, negative 5c and plus 8c are. So bring down your 5. And negative 5 and a positive 8 gives you a positive 3c. We're now going to move all of our c's to one side and everything else to the other. When we move plus 3c, we have to do minus 3c. When we move a plus 1, we're going to do minus 1. And we have something new happen. 3c minus 3c gives you no c's. It gives you nothing. They cancel each other out completely. But I am going to put that 0 there just to show you when I do 5 minus 1, I get 4. 0 equals 4 is what I'm left with. Anytime c's cancel, anytime your x's, y's, z's, your variables cancel and it leaves you with a false statement. Your answer will be no solution. There is no solution to this equation. There's nothing you can put into this equation to make it true. Number 12. Step number 1, let's get rid of parentheses. So we have 40 minus 8x equals negative 8 times x. Negative 8 times negative 5 is a positive 40. And you actually end up with the same thing on each side. Look what's about to happen. Minus 8x by plus 8x. Positive 40 by negative 40. Negative 8 plus 8 gives you no x's left. Nothing left. Everything canceled. But look what's on the other side. Positive 40 and negative 40 is 0. Just like the last one, all my variables canceled. However, on the last one, I was left with a false statement. On this one, I'm left with a true statement, which you could have actually seen here. The left and the right are identical. And when will that be a true statement? When you end up with a true statement at the end, this equation will have infinite solutions. Again, it's different from the last problem because the last problem had no solution because this was a false statement. But if this is a true statement, 0 equals 0, 5 equals 5, 6 equals 6, then it will have infinite solutions. Or you can put the answer to this is all real numbers. And we've discussed what a real number was in a previous video. Don't get this confused with, okay, let's discuss something real quick. If you're left with like 5x equals 0, and you see that and you say, oh, 5 equals 0, that's not true. This is solvable. You can mark out 5 and divide by 5 and you get x is 0. Do not get this mixed up with what we just did, okay? That would have a solution there, okay? Next up, number 13. Okay, the first thing I do on these is this is called a proportion. And the first thing I do on these is I get rid of my fractions. Division by 3, I mark it out and I come over here and I multiply by 3. Division by x plus 4, I come over to the other side and I do the opposite. I multiply by x plus 4. So to move this x plus 4 up here, I'm going to multiply 5 times the x plus 4. I'm going to do 5 times x, and I'm going to do 5 times 4. You have to distribute. You're going to divide it by 3, come over to the other side, multiply by 3, and you get 6, and then it's just like the other equations. So there's no difference between a proportion and a regular equation. X is on one side, plus 20. Let's move to the other side by minus 20. You have now 5x equals 6 minus 20 is negative 14. Last step, to get rid of the 5, we're going to divide by it. That will not reduce, it won't divide, so we're going to leave x is equal to negative 14 fifths. Another proportion, let's, since we have divided by 2x minus 8, let's come over here and multiply by 2x minus 8. And I'm not even going to show this, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do 10 times 2x and 10 times a negative 8. Bring down your equal sign. To get rid of 5x minus 9, I'm going to come up here and multiply, because to get rid of division, I multiply the other side. So 8 times 5x is 40x. 8 times a negative 9 is a negative 72. Now it's just like the other equations we've been working. To get rid of 20x, I'm going to subtract 20x. I did it to that side, so I'm working with positives. To get rid of minus 72, I add 72, but however, I've got negatives there, so I'll still be working with negatives. Negative 80 plus 72 is negative 8. 40 minus 20 is 20x. To get x by itself, since this is multiplied, I'm going to divide by 20. Now, again, the way you're going to treat that answer is, since 8 is not divisible by 20, you can simply reduce it. I'm going to take it's negative divided by positive is negative, divide the top by 4, divide the bottom by 4, and you get x is negative 2 fifths. Now, we're going to follow the exact same steps on literal equations. What we're asked to do here, a literal equation is like a formula. We want to take this thing and I want to solve it for pi. Okay, I want to get pi by itself. Now, here's your thoughts. If you need to rewrite this thing, you can. C is equal to get pi by itself, think about the relationship between pi and 2 and r. Pi is being multiplied. All three of those things are being multiplied over there, so you could actually rearrange them if you needed to. You don't have to do this. I'm just showing you that pi and 2r are being multiplied. So to get rid of times 2r, you just go to the other side and you divide by 2r. Now, pi is by itself. That's all you were asked to do there. Now, if you need to, you could actually say, okay, you got multiplication here, so we're going to divide by 2. And since it was multiplied by r as well, you're dividing by r as well. So whatever you need to do to think about this, that's your new formula. The pi is equal to c over 2r. Okay, number 16. On 16, you're asked to get p by itself. To get p by itself, we've got to get rid of this 1/2, and we've got to get rid of this a. Now, 1/2 is being multiplied by the AP. So first thing we need to do, let's move that 1/2 over by dividing. But a reminder, to divide by 1/2, you've got to flip and you've got to multiply. So dividing by 1/2 is the same thing as multiplying by 2. So look how easy this is. Mark that out and multiply the other side by 2. Because again, all you're doing there is dividing by 1/2, which is the same thing as multiplying by 2. Now, the last step, to get p by itself, we got to get rid of this a. Since a is being multiplied by p, we're going to divide by little a. And you now have p is equal to 2a over a. Again, that's what that formula is now. Number 17, first thing, look at this. We want to get b by itself. You have this divided by c. So the first thing I do is come over here and multiply by c to get rid of that fraction. Now you can actually solve this pretty easily for b. Since this is a positive a, to move that over, you're going to do minus a. And now b is by itself. B is equal to 5c minus a. Number 18, you see one of the most common applications for this. This is a line that's in standard form, and we want to solve this thing for x. Now, solving it for y would put it in slope-intercept form, and that's something we're going to do a lot down the road. Now, there's two different ways we can go at this problem. The first way, we can take this minus 3y. We can move it to the other side by doing plus 3y. Anytime you want to move a whole term, if it's a minus, make it a plus on the other side. If it's a plus, make it a minus. Now, the next step, we've already moved this. The last step is, since this is multiplied by 3, we're going to divide by 3. Now, division by 3, you can actually, if you'll look at these two terms, this is distributive property. You can divide both of these by 3. 24 divided by 3 gives you an 8. A positive 3y divided by 3 will give you a positive 1y. So that's one way of doing it. Now, the other method, and I like this method probably more. If you look at those three terms, this thing has three terms. Equations can be reduced the same way fractions are reduced. If you have multiple terms and you notice that all three terms are ever divisible by some number, like all three of these are divisible by 3, go ahead and divide this, this, and this, all 3 by 3. 3x divided by 3 gives you 1x. Negative 3y divided by 3 will give you a negative 1y, and you don't have to put the ones, equals 24 divided by 3 gives you 8. So I divided every term by 3, and now to get x by itself, just move the y over. So x is equal to 8 plus y, same answer. Number 17, we got to get v by itself. So first thing to do, let's get rid of these parentheses. Actually, there's a couple of different ways to work at this. Since 1/2 here is being multiplied by everything, if you would like to, you can move that 1/2 over first. Since it's being multiplied, to move it to the other side, we're going to divide. And again, reminder from a while ago, dividing by 1/2 is the same thing as times 2. So to move it over here, just multiply that side by 2. So now you have 14w equals w plus v, and that's going to make things so much easier. Because now to get v by itself, we're just going to move this other w over, which gives you 13w equals v, and that's what you want. You want v by itself. You're solving for v. Next up, you have a very common formula from, this is from geometry. And I can use the same trick I did on the last one. If you would like to, since the whole thing is being multiplied times 180, I can go ahead and move it over by dividing by 180. And you're left with n minus 2. Now to get n by itself, just add 2. So you have s over 180, tack on the plus 2, and that's got n by itself. That's one way of looking at it. And again, several of these have multiple ways. A lot of people like to tackle these by distributing, and you can. S equals 180 times n, and 180 times negative 2 gives you a negative 360. Next step, to get n by itself, we're going to move this minus 360 over by doing a positive 360. And the last step, since these are multiplied, we're going to divide by it. And a lot of people say, well, that's not the same answer. But if you remember the distributive property that I just talked about, both of these are being divided by 180. You have s divided by 180, plus you have 360 divided by 180, which would give you that 2, so it actually is the same answer.